I have to start out talking about this thing with Ivana Trump only because it's symbolic of all the stuff that's happening in Washington. Ivana Trump is obviously Donald Trump's first wife. It's not Ivanka, this is Ivana. Is plugging her new book, Raising Trump, her memoir. And she goes on TV on CNN and she says she's not phoning the White House. She's not going to phone the White House because she doesn't want to make Melania jealous. And here's the clip.
I have the direct number to White House, but I don't really want to call him there because Melania is there, and I don't want to cause any kind of jealousy or something like that because I'm basically first Trump wife, okay? I'm first lady, okay?
She says she's first lady, and Melania didn't like that. Melania issued this response. That hurts when they slam your face into the table like that. That's not actually what happened. I made that up. The First Lady fired back via a sharply worded statement to CNN from her communications director, Stephanie Grisham. She said, Mrs. Trump has made the White House a home for Barron and the president. She loves living in Washington, D.C., and is honored by her role as First Lady of the United States. She plans to use her title and role to help children, not sell books. There's clearly no substance to this statement from an ex. This is unfortunately only attention-seeking and self-serving noise. Man, oh man, catfight, catfight. So I know it's terrible. I'm sorry. I'll stop. But it is, you know, what's funny about it, it does have this kind of reality TV atmosphere, and that atmosphere is carried over into the government because now we also have this feud between Bob Corker and the president. Bob Corker is the senator from Tennessee. He says he's not running again. He's stepping down, and now he's started to go. Actually, Trump went off on him first in a Twitter thing, and then Corker, in a phone conversation with the New York Times, which the New York Times subsequently published. Here is just a little clip of that.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like he's on a reality show of some kind, you know, when he's talking about these big foreign policy issues. And, and you know, he doesn't realize that, you know, that we could be heading towards World War III with the kind of comments that he's making. And it's like it's an act to him, and sure that bothers me.
So he's claiming that Trump is just out of control. Trump fired back with, I love this, his Twitter feed says, the failing New York Times set little Bob Corker up by recording his conversation. It was made to sound like a fool. That's what I am dealing with. And then Corker fires back. This is like even worse than what's happening with the First Lady. Corker fired back. It's a shame the White House has become an adult daycare center. Someone obviously missed their shift this morning. Gosh. So your government at work. You know what gets me about this? All through these hurricanes, this horrible shooting in Vegas, we saw ordinary Americans. I was not joking. I don't know, just noting the irony that one of the real heroes of Vegas saved 30 lives, a guy named John Smith, you know, like Everyman. He's just named Everyman. And regular Americans are behaving with such nobility under this crisis, such heroism, such togetherness. You don't see any racial disagreements on the flood. You know, you saw white people saving black people saving white people. It's only our government. It's only the people in charge. And Hollywood, it's only the powerful rich people. They're like the worst people in the country. Like the regular people are great, you know, and which is true from lived experience. From lived experience, you travel outside New York and LA. I used to say this as a kid because I traveled all over the country. I was in every state of the union except North Dakota because I figured South Dakota, North Dakota, it's the same thing. But I was in every state of the union, traveled around, met people. You get outside of LA and New York, and this country is some of the nicest people on earth are in this country. And to be honest with you, it's true in LA and New York too. When you're not dealing with Harvey Weinstein, when you're dealing with like the regular people in the street, people are perfectly nice. So the question is this like another little spat, or is this indicative of something else? Because Steve Bannon, now you all remember Steve Bannon used to be Trump's lieutenant, now runs Breitbart. He left, and he's been saying that he's going to be, his role running the Breitbart site is to fight the establishment GOP, who he feels is trying to undermine Trump's agenda. He feels that Trump has come in with this new agenda, drain the swamp, reshape the face of conservatism, but the old conservatives don't want to let go of power. So he goes on Hannity last night, and he basically says that this is that Corker doing this is saying what everybody in the establishment GOP is thinking. Here's that cut.
When you want to talk about why there's no repeal and replace, why there's no tax cut, why there's no tax reform, why there's no infrastructure bill, you saw it right there. Corker, McConnell, and Corker and the entire clique, establishment globalist clique on Capitol Hill, have to go. And if we need any more proof about what they think, you heard it tonight, it's an absolute disgrace.
I've been told by people in the room.
So it's an absolute disgrace, he says. And he says that he is using this. Bannon, remember, Bannon was down in Alabama helping Roy Moore, who won the primary there, and it was this arch conservative, pro-religious candidate. Trump was on the other side, but Bannon was saying, no, the Trumpist candidate is Roy Moore, and Roy Moore won. Now he says he is going to do this across the board. And Hannity and he have this exchange. Now, remember, in 2010, the Tea Party put up some candidates, and a lot of these candidates got shot down because they weren't vetted properly. They weren't ready for prime time. But Bannon says that's not going to happen this time. He is organizing, and not just him. It's obviously the money behind him, the Mercer money behind him. He is organizing to have a full-scale assault on a primary assault on the GOP establishment. Listen to this exchange.
It's a lack of sense of urgency. By the way, these guys work 3 days a week. The American people, now people are working 2 jobs. Their wives are working 2 jobs. They know the urgency out there on the economic hate crimes that have been perpetuated on the American working men and women in this country because of the trade deals.
Is this a fair statement? Is Steve Bannon declaring war on the establishment that are not for the working men and women in this country?
100%. We are declaring war on the Republican establishment that does not back the agenda that Donald Trump ran on and the President of the United States. And that is an agenda that we know backs the working men and women.
This is basically a war because you know what McConnell did in Alabama. And you know there are people out there. Listen,
I've had donors.
Karl Rove is going to put in all their money.
Karl Rove, Stephen Law, these guys should get the joke. Their donors are coming to us because they're tired of having their money burned up by trying to destroy people like Judge Moore. It's a new game in town. We're going to cut off the oxygen to Mitch McConnell.
It's always hard when Bannon is talking to know how much of this is kind of overblown. He's always using war terms. He used to send emails, internal emails at Breitbart with #war would be the way he would sign them and all this talk. But he isn't, he does direct some serious money from the Mercers. He could really make trouble for some of these people. And I do not believe they're listening to this and shrugging it off. So the Washington Post, all the newspapers really, including the Wall Street Journal, and shame on them for this, they're depicting Trump as basically an isolated crazy man. That Corker, they're basically backing Corker's play. I'll read you a little bit of what the Washington Post says about Donald Trump. It says, Trump in recent days has shown flashes of fury and left his aides, including White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, scrambling to manage his outbursts. He has been frustrated in particular with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who was reported last week to have earlier called the president a moron. One Trump confidant likened the president to a whistling teapot, saying that when he does blow off steam, he can turn into a pressure cooker. And when he does not blow off steam, he can turn into a pressure cooker and explode. I think we are in pressure cooker territory, said this person who spoke on the condition of anonymity to talk candidly. Right. So you never know who these people are, what axe they have to grind. This portrait of the president increasingly isolated in the capital city is based on interviews with 18 White House officials, outside advisors, and other Trump associates. So you don't know who these people are. But listen, what they go on to say, and the Wall Street Journal says this too, basically, is that the signs that Trump is going nuts are like his attacks on the NFL and his, the things he's saying. Oh, and the immigrant thing, he said, Chuck and Nancy, as we now call them, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, said they had a deal with Donald Trump that they were going to let the Dreamers, the DACA people, stay in America. These immigrants, these people who were brought over as children illegally, but Obama gave them a pass with an executive order, and Donald Trump said they had to go. The executive order was being rescinded, but then Chuck and Nancy said, no, we made a deal to keep them. Then Trump came out and said, I think this was yesterday, he came out and said, well, wait, if we're going to keep them, because Trump never said there was a deal. He never said there was a deal. Somebody in the White House did say the wall was off the table, but Trump never said it. He didn't say that there was a deal. Now he says if the Dreamers are going to be allowed to stay, he will insist on the construction of a wall across the southern border, the hiring of 10,000 immigration agents, tougher laws for those seeking asylum, and denial of federal grants to sanctuary cities. The White House is also demanding the use of the E-Verify program by companies. And so everybody's saying, oh, he's scuttling the deal. He's scuttling the deal. You know, and Chuck and Nancy said, are you serious? He can't be serious and all this stuff. So here's the thing about Trump. Trump does seem to me to be a volatile and sometimes childishly narcissistic person who goes off in personal feuds when he should be playing the game. Okay. And and the other thing, you know, what Corker's saying, he's talking about North Korea. He's talking about all the tweets about North Korea and how, you know, he's going to lead us to World War III. That's what Corker was talking about when he says it's going to be World War III. So Donald Trump is a lot of the things that, you know, his opponents say he is. But Donald Trump has appointed 30 great judges. He has rolled back regulations in big and important ways. He's driving the news media crazy, which I think is really important. Today, they're rescinding Obama's executive order. It's called something like the Clean Energy Bill. It was basically just set there to attack the coal industry. They've expanded religious rights for those who don't want to pay for birth control. And of course, that was amazing. The left, all these powerful feminists. What do you mean you're not going to pay for my birth control? What do you mean people have religious rights? I mean, believe me, Barack Obama didn't care whether the little sisters of the poor paid for birth control. All he cared about was establishing the principle that the government trumped the church, that the government could tell religious people what to do, no matter what their consciences said. And whether you're religious or not, by the way, you need churches to defend your right to conscience. You can't defend it alone. These powerful institutions fighting back against the government is how your conscience gets protected. So Trump has done all these things. What has Congress done? This is the problem. You can blame Donald Trump for not herding the cats, and he hasn't done, in my opinion, a great job of, you know, getting Congress to act. But when Congress is attacking Trump, I think the people are looking at this and saying, well, Trump, you know, can be volatile. I wish he'd stop tweeting so much. This is what people tell me when I talk to ordinary people. They just say, you know, to non-political people, I mean, they just say, you know, I wish he'd stop all the tweeting and all this stuff. But he's doing a pretty good job. But what has Congress done? Like nothing. And if Bob Corker or anybody else, because remember, Bob Corker's not running, but a lot of people are, if they think they're going to go and attack Trump and get reelected with Steve Bannon fighting them and primarying them, I think they're making a big, big mistake.